What's going on, Jets fans? Welcome back to another video here on Pig City Hockey. This is going to be our last draft preview video going into the 2021 entry draft on guys that I think that the Jets should potentially take with the 17th overall pick unless they move it coming up in today potentially or on the day of the draft. Who knows what can happen in the world of hockey and with the way that trades happen in today's day and age. And with all that being said, make sure to turn on notifications before we jump any further into this video because I will be live streaming my live reaction to the NHL expansion draft for the Seattle Kraken tonight. I will be going live at 4:30 Pacific time because it starts at 5, which is, I believe, 8 o'clock Eastern time, so that would be like 7:30, I guess it would be translated. So 7:30 Eastern time, and I guess that would be 6:30 Winnipeg time. If that's wrong, excuse me, I'm not too good with time zones off the top of my head like that. But with all that being said, make sure to come check out the live stream. We will be going over all of the trades and the selections that are made by the Seattle Kraken tonight ahead of the expansion draft and during it and all that. So thank you guys, if you guys in advance, for coming out and supporting that if you guys choose to. With all that being said, though, let's talk about Corson Ceulemans, if Ceulemans, however you say his name, because I'm horrible with pronunciation, you guys know that. But nonetheless, this is a very interesting pick. Out of the University of Wisconsin, I think that he potentially could be a really good fit for the Jets. He's been linked a lot to the Jets, potentially in that like 17th area, from about 15 to 22 in that middle pack of the draft in the first round. Definitely a great defensive prospect. Personally, though, I would rather have Lambos over Ceulemans, only because of how touted Lambos was prior to the injury. And I think with the Jets prospects that they have currently, that Lambos is kind of a, wild card with how good he could be potentially for the future. So I think bringing in Lambos over Ceulemans already just is a better pick. But nonetheless, they're both very valuable defensemen, and it's time we show some due to this guy and some respect and talk about why the Jets could potentially pick him at 17th overall. Now, just getting into the basis of what Ceulemans' game is at the as a defenseman is that he's a guy who can definitely pinch and engage opponents and box them out extremely well. He is really good at controlling his opponents on the boards and shoving the puck away from them and keeping away that gap and just maintaining really good possession with the puck and making the best plays and protecting it. And that's really important. When you're an offensive defenseman, you need to be good at protecting the puck because if you turn it over constantly, you're nothing more than a turnovers machine, and no matter how great your offensive input is, it's not going to make up for the fact of the turnovers that you give and the amount that you do. So to have a guy that is very, I would almost say, respectful of the puck and knows when to pinch, knows how to control it, respectful of the boards and his opponent, and the positioning that he brings going through the neutral zone into the offense zone to set up on the attack, that's very valuable, especially in a modern day NHL offensive defenseman, or hell, even in a two-way defenseman. When you want to engage that offensive skill as a defenseman in any real team, for any real type of player, regardless of you being defensive or not, you want to engage your offensive skill when it's best suited to do so, where you won't give a turnover or generate any type of offense against your team, right? That is the whole point of being a defenseman. You're there to provide offense when needed, but more importantly, defend the net and keep, the game tied or leading or whatever the situation of the game might be. Your job is to stop goals from going in and help your goaltender. So to have a defenseman that is primarily based offensively but can still play the game defensively, even when he's showing off his offensive skills, I know it's a lot of offensive defense being thrown around there, but stay with me, is very, very valuable. This guy can bring everything offensive that Corson Lambos can, and a lot of other defensemen as well, and still have that pedigree of being a defenseman. And a big reason for that is because he is compared to Cale Makar, who was drafted out of the same team from the AJHL down with the Brooks Bandits. He was drafted there 4 years ago and has tons of comparisons to Cale Makar. Now, I know what you're thinking, Jets fans. Cale Makar, sign me up. I was like that too at first, but this kid definitely has some comparisons and some still growth to go in his game, but definitely a mid-round pick. He's not going to be the next Cale Makar, I don't think, but I definitely could be a really good offensive weapon who's responsible, and that is something that the Jets desperately need. When you look at the guys they have right now in their system, Dylan Sandberg, Ville Heinola, both of those guys are fantastic examples of two-way defenders with good offensive skill that can make stretch passes, break out of their own zone, move the puck well to the neutral zone, and be good offensive weapons at times, but are still primarily two-way defenders. They're not going to be putting up a mass amount of points. They're not Quinn Hughes. They're not John Carlson. But when you look at what Ceulemans can do, he can be that type of offensive guy, but still be reliable defensively, similar to what Cale Makar is, and that can be a very valuable skill. I feel like that is the best comparison to Cale Makar, not in the sense that their game is similar, but in the sense that they can both be very offensively built and dynamic, but still be trusted on defense, which is a very valuable skill to have in an offensive defenseman. Now, going over his rankings, obviously, I said that he was anywhere projected between that 15 to like the 20, 22, roughly around that area of the middle of the pack. Most draft ranks have him going there. His highest rating that I could find was from FC Hockey, which was from the spring, had him at 11. And then the highest rating that I could see, or I guess the lowest rating, or however you want to make it for being like, I guess later rating, lowest, I don't know. That's something I should have thought about before. But anyways, I think that, like, his lowest, whatever, his worst rating, that's what we'll go with, is definitely coming in from the Elite Prospects, which is 30th overall, which is the most recent rankings that they can see. So definitely a guy that can be considered to be later first-round pick, but I think would still be a good pickup for a team looking for defense, like the Jets potentially, at that mid-selection. Now, I've already made a lot of other videos talking about offensive guys, as guys like Adu Ratti, guys like Matthew Coronado, not Michael, excuse me, and those are guys I personally would rather see the Jets go after, but comparing to Lambos and Ceulemans, I think that these are obviously the two best gets for the Jets if they choose to go with the defender route. And for good reason, too. When you look at Ceulemans' stats going into last year with the Brooks Bandits, I guess I'd be in the AJHL, in 44 games played, 5 goals, 30 assists for 35 points. Very responsible defender who had a lot of growth in his game and has obviously gotten better at every level he's played at. So a guy that I think definitely can make the Jets better. And obviously another big important aspect of this is that when you look at the Jets' defensive prospects right now, you can make the argument that Ville Heinola, Sandberg, and Sami Niku, I know he's not really a prospect anymore, but I still consider him just to be on that verge of prospect / AHL career bench press box guy, you know what I mean? Those three guys are basically NHL ready at this point. They can make almost any team in the NHL. They should make the Jets, at least with looking at the defense that we have and how horrendous it's been at times. Those three guys should make the team now. So if you even have two of those three guys and Sandberg and Heinola make the team potentially next year at different times or play at least consistently, I would say at least 30 games potentially, that is going to be two guys making the jump that you don't have with the Moose, two guys that you don't have when you're burnt off the ECL and just getting further into their careers at the NHL. So to have a guy like Ceulemans, like I said, with Lambos, who can come in and be ready in about 2 to 3 years after developing nicely with the Moose potentially for a couple seasons, that could be a great get for us moving into the future, because the other defenseman that a lot of people and a lot of Jets fans forget to mention at times is Declan Chisholm. Now, Declan Chisholm is fantastic. He's got a lot of growth, obviously defensive, but his offensive game is dynamite, and I love that kid. Again, the fact that we were able to get him for literally just Drew Stafford at the deadline when he was sucking, and we dumped him to Boston and got like a 6th-round pick for him, that then turned into Declan Chisholm. That's a fantastic move by Chevy. One of his most underrated trades when you actually look at that whole trade with the Evander Kane thing. I'm getting off topic, but damn, that was a great move by Chevy, and also a great draft by him as well to get that 6th. And moving on from him, though, point being, you have a guy like that who is offensively gifted, who is coming through his own, who's getting better, who's going to play with the Moose again next year, who had an injury this year, so hopefully he doesn't, defect his development going further. But I think that's another good piece to have with the future. So to have Chisholm be about that same timeline as potentially a defenseman drafted in this year's round in the late to first round could be a great get. Because the other thing we're not talking about is a guy that I know you guys think that I hate for some reason. I've said this before, and I'll say it again, I don't. Logan Stanley is another good prospect to have to potentially be working on developing. There's a reason why the Jets protected him over DeMello. We're not getting into that, but the whole point of that was to, show that they want to incorporate the youth more moving forward into the defensive core, and that's a big, important step that they need to take, especially with bringing in Ville Heinola, Sandberg, Niku potentially, Chisholm, and the list goes on. So bringing a defenseman in this year, it definitely makes sense, and a guy like Lambos, who is honestly that same type of player that Lambos is with Ceulemans. I'm getting away from myself right now with the pronunciation of these guys because I am just horrible at pronunciation. I always have. Grammar's been my weakest point in school. I cannot get better at it for some reason, but the point is, both of these guys are great picks. Ceulemans would be a great pick, so would Lambos. Both of these guys have very similar defensive games, very similarly play. Their offensive skill is applied, and they're just very similar. Personally, I want Lambos because of that Winnipeg connection, even though he's not from Winnipeg, but he's played with the Ice, to have him come to the Moose and then play with the Jets potentially, to play in all 3 major hockey leagues in Winnipeg, I think is awesome for the fan base. So I think that is the guy, if you're going to go defense, you should take if you are Cheveldayoff. Personally, though, going into my final thoughts of all this, I think that Matthew Coronado is the better get for the Jets moving forward. I think he has better potential offensively than some guys give him credit for, and I think he's the exact type of player that would exactly fit the timeline that we have for moving up with our forwards, the same type of grit that we play. And if Paul Maurice, unfortunately, is here for the long run, guys, he's not going anywhere. He's the exact prospect that Paul Maurice would use and like to use even at a young age because of how he plays. So I think that is personally the best fit for the Jets this draft, but we'll see how it happens because honestly, you never know with the NHL and how things transpire, because GMs in the NHL are so weird and the decisions they make at times just baffle me. But point being, let me know your guys' thoughts in the description below. As always, Jets fans, what are your final thoughts going into the draft on Friday? What are your final thoughts on the expansion draft tonight? Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, peace, love, and positivity to all of you beautiful people out there in the world, wherever you are. Thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe regardless of the team that you root for. I will see you guys in the next video. I will see you guys later tonight with the expansion draft, so make sure to turn on notifications to check that out and drop a like and say hi during the expansion draft so you can see my live thoughts on how the new NHL team for next season is going to look. With all that being said, thanks so much for watching. Peace out. Have a great rest of your day, and bye-bye.